The massive research ship Star's Hope spun out of control, like a broken toy in space. Captain Veltar watched helplessly as his beautiful vessel fell toward the gas giant below. The planet's gravity pulled them closer and closer, while inside the ship, everything was going wrong. Sparks flew from the control panels around the bridge. The lights flickered on and off, and the air tasted like burned metal. Veltar's forearms moved quickly across different buttons and switches, trying to fix systems that kept breaking down. He had been a ship captain for 30 years, but nothing had prepared him for this disaster. "Sir, we've lost main power to the engines," shouted his engineer from across the bridge. The young Calorian's voice cracked with fear. "Life support is failing on decks 7 through 12. Veltar felt his heart sink. This was supposed to be a simple science mission. They were studying the strange storms on Nephro 7, collecting data that would help other ships travel safely through this part of space. Instead, a massive solar flare had fried their electronics, leaving them trapped and dying. "How many souls are we carrying?" Veltar asked, though he already knew the answer. 847, sir, including the families and younglings from the research teams. The captain closed his eyes for a moment. Babies, children, parents, grandparents, all depending on him to save them. The ship shuddered as another system failed, and he could hear the hull groaning under stress. "Open emergency channels on all frequencies," Veltar ordered his communications officer. "Broadcast our position to every ship, every station, every civilization, within range." "Sir, broadcasting now." The officer's hands shook as she worked. "Should I include our technical specifications? Everything? Our exact location? What kind of ship we are? How many people need rescue? What equipment would be needed to save us? Make it as easy as possible for someone to help us." The message went out into the darkness of space, traveling at the speed of light, toward distant worlds. It carried their coordinates, their desperate situation, and a simple plea that any decent being should understand. "Please help us." Veltar stared at the view screen, showing the swirling clouds of Nephro 7 getting larger. They had maybe days before the ship broke apart completely. Someone had to hear their call. Someone had to care enough to come. In the corridors behind him, families huddled together, trying to stay warm as the heating systems failed. Children asked their parents why the lights kept going out. Everyone was counting on him to find a miracle. The message kept broadcasting, over and over, hoping against hope that somewhere in the vast galaxy, someone would listen. The distress signal reached the Vrexian Empire first, traveling through space to their massive crystal towers that stretched into the clouds. Admiral Kethros sat in his floating chair, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Empire's wealth and power. His cold, reptilian eyes scanned the emergency message without any emotion. "Run the numbers," he told his assistant, a younger Vrexian who still believed their empire stood for something noble. Within minutes, the computer finished its calculations. "Sir, a rescue mission would cost exactly 2.7 million credits. We would need to send 3 of our fastest ships, risk them in dangerous space near that gas giant, and use expensive fuel for a round trip of 94 light-years." Kethros tapped his clawed fingers on his desk. "And what do the Calorians offer us in return? Nothing, sir? They're just scientists and civilians. No military technology, no rare minerals, no political advantages." "Then we ignore it," Kethros said, already moving on to more profitable matters. "File the transmission away and forget about it." Meanwhile, in the perfect metal cities of the Thalorian Federation, their most advanced artificial intelligence processed the same distress call in 0.3 seconds. The AI was smarter than any organic brain, capable of calculating millions of possibilities at once. "Analysis complete," the AI announced to the Federation Council. "Rescue probability, only 23% chance of success. Risk to our vessels, high." Value of Calorian lives according to galactic economic standards. Minimal. Recommendation: decline all involvement. The council members nodded in agreement. Why risk their perfect ships and trained crews for such a low chance of success? The math simply didn't support it. The Zephyrin Collective received the message during their daily Unity session, where thousands of their species shared thoughts through their connected minds. For exactly 4 minutes and 42 seconds, they debated the Calorian situation. They offer no military alliance, thought one voice in the collective mind. No rare resources on their homeworld, added another. Their technology is centuries behind ours, concluded a third. The decision flowed through their shared consciousness, like water finding the lowest point. Unanimous and final. Not their problem. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out again and again. The wealthy Altarian Republic was too busy with trade negotiations. The warrior clans of Drakmor saw no honor in rescuing weak civilians. The Synthetic Alliance calculated that organic life wasn't worth the energy. Expenditure. Every advanced civilization had the technology to help. Every one of them found excuses not to. Too expensive, too risky, too far away, or simply too irrelevant to their grand plans for galactic dominance. The Calorian cry for help echoed through empty space, growing weaker with each passing hour, while the greatest powers in the galaxy turned their backs and looked away. Lieutenant Commander Jin Park stretched his aching back and took another sip of cold coffee. It was his third night shift in a row at Station Hermes 7, humanity's most remote listening post on the edge of known space. The small space station drifted quietly between the stars, its massive antenna arrays constantly scanning for signals from across the galaxy. Most nights were boring. Jin would monitor routine traffic between trading ships, diplomatic messages between alien governments, or the occasional scientific broadcast from research vessels. Tonight felt different though. For the past hour, he'd been tracking a strange, weak signal that seemed to fade in and out like a dying heartbeat. "Ho, come take a look at this," Jin called to his communications specialist, Sergeant Choho, who was updating their database on the other side of the small control room. Choho rolled his chair over, bringing his steaming cup of instant noodles with him. "What have you got, sir?" "This signal here." Jin pointed at the fuzzy wave pattern on his screen. "It's been getting weaker for days, but there's definitely a pattern to it. I think someone's trying to communicate." Choho squinted at the display, slurping his noodles thoughtfully. "Looks like it's been bouncing around space for a while. The signal's pretty degraded." "That's what worries me," Jin said. "If this is what I think it is, someone's been calling for help for a long time." They worked through the night, taking turns catching short naps, while their computers slowly rebuilt the damaged transmission. Jin's eyes burned from staring at screens, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this was important. Really important. Around dawn, their translation software finally finished processing the reconstructed message. Jin read the first few lines and felt his stomach drop. Emergency broadcast. Calorian research vessel. Life support failing. 847 souls aboard. "Dear God," Choho whispered, reading over Jin's shoulder. "It's a distress call." Jin's hands shook as he scrolled through the message. Families trapped on a dying ship. Children running out of air. Scientists who'd been studying space storms, now caught in their own disaster. "Oh, check the timestamp on this transmission. When did it start broadcasting?" Choho's fingers flew across his keyboard, running calculations. His face went pale. "Sir, this signal has been transmitting for 3 weeks, maybe longer," Jin felt. Ice in his veins. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of desperate people calling for help, while their ship slowly died around them. He quickly accessed the galactic communication networks, searching for any sign that someone had responded to the Calorian distress call. Nothing. Complete silence. "They've been screaming into the void for 3 weeks," Jin said quietly, "and No one's even acknowledged them. The emergency alarm echoed through Earth's Defense Command at 0300 hours, waking Admiral 1 Kim from the first decent sleep he'd had in weeks. Within an hour, every senior officer was gathered in the main briefing room, their faces grim in the blue glow of holographic displays. Admiral Kim stood at the head of the table, looking at Earth's pitiful fleet resources floating before him like tiny toys. 3 heavy cruisers, 8 frigates, and a handful of support vessels. That was humanity's entire deep space capability, and it looked pathetic compared to the massive armadas of other galactic powers. "Give me the situation," Kim said, pouring himself black coffee from a thermos. Captain Na Yoon, Earth's best tactical analyst, pulled up a star chart. "The Calorian ship is 47 light-years away, sir. That's at the very edge of our operational range." "How long to get there?" "If we push our ships to maximum velocity, maybe 4 days. But sir, we'd be running our engines at 110% capacity the entire way. We could lose ships just from the journey." Kim studied the numbers, doing the math in his head. "What about our defenses here at home?" "That's the problem, sir," said Commander Lee Jun, their fleet coordinator. "If we send our emergency reserve ships, Earth will be completely defenseless. For at least 2 months, maybe 3, depending on how long the rescue takes." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Humanity was still new to the galactic scene, surrounded by species that weren't all friendly. Some viewed humans as upstart primitives who needed to be put in their place. "Sir," Captain Na spoke carefully, "I have to ask the obvious question. What do we owe the Calorians? We've never even met them before. They're not allies, not trade partners. They can't offer us anything in return." Admiral Kim walked to the window overlooking Earth's blue curve below. Cities sparkled like jewels in the darkness, holding 8 billion human souls who were depending on him to keep them safe. "How many people are on that ship?" he asked, without turning around. 847, sir, including families and children." Kim closed his eyes. In the silence, he could almost hear those Calorian children crying for their parents, wondering why no one was coming to save them. "Prep the Compassion and her escort fleet," he said finally. "Full emergency deployment. We leave in 6 hours. Admiral Commander Lee protested. "The other species have better ships, bigger fleets." "Why didn't they?" "The other species aren't us," Kim interrupted, turning back to face his officers. "We don't leave anyone behind. Ever. That's what makes us human." The U's Compassion tore through hyperspace like a bullet, her hull glowing, white-hot from the impossible speeds Admiral Kim had ordered. In the engine room, warning alarms screamed constantly while Chief Engineer Park So watched his displays with growing horror. "Admiral to Engineering," Kim's voice crackled over the intercom. "Status report." Park So wiped sweat from his forehead as he shouted over the noise of overworked machinery. "Sir, we're running 15% over maximum recommended velocity. Hull temperature is approaching critical levels. If we don't slow down soon, the ship could tear itself apart." On the bridge, Admiral Kim stared at the countdown timer showing how much time the Calorians had left. Every minute mattered. Every second could mean the difference between life and death for those 847 souls. "How much time do we lose if we reduce speed to safe levels?" Kim asked, dreading the answer. 18 hours, sir. Maybe more if we have to stop for repairs." Kim closed his eyes, feeling the weight of impossible choices. The Calorians didn't have 18 extra hours. Their life support systems were already failing, their ship breaking apart in the gravity well of that gas giant. "Maintain current speed," Kim ordered. "All hands to damage control stations. Engineering teams to emergency status." Behind the Compassion, the escort frigates Seoul and Busan matched their flagship's dangerous pace. Captain Yoon, Sik on the Seoul, watched his own engine readings with concern, while Captain Park Min, on the Busan, had already lost 2 power couplings to the extreme stress. In the bowels of the Compassion, engineer Mi Li and her team worked miracles with duct tape, spare parts, and pure determination. When a coolant line burst, spraying toxic fluid everywhere, she sealed it with emergency patches and kept working. When the main stabilizer started shaking itself apart, her team reinforced it with metal strips torn from storage containers. We're losing containment on Reactor 2, called her assistant, Technician Kim Han, his voice tight with fear. Then we fix it, Mi replied, grabbing her tools. Those people are counting on us. The crew worked in shifts, catching sleep in 15-minute breaks before returning to their stations. Everyone understood the stakes. Everyone knew they were pushing their ships beyond what they were designed to handle. But no one complained. No one suggested turning back. They were human, and humans didn't abandon people who needed help, even if it meant risking everything. The small fleet raced through the darkness, chasing a fading hope across the vast emptiness of space. When the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Nephro 7, the sight that greeted them was horrifying. The massive gas giant swirled with deadly storms, its gravity pulling everything toward its crushing center. And there, spinning helplessly in that deadly embrace, was the Calorian ship Star's Hope. "Dear God," whispered Navigator Yubin, his face pressed against the view screen. "Look at that thing." The Calorian vessel looked like a broken toy that a child had thrown away. Huge gashes ran along its hull, where debris had torn through the metal. Pieces of the ship drifted nearby like scattered puzzle pieces. Worst of all, the entire vessel was tumbling end over end, completely out of control. How are they still alive in that wreck? Yubin asked in amazement. Sensor operator Li Tae worked frantically at his station, trying to get readings through. All the interference from the gas giant. "Barely alive, sir. Life support is down to 12% and dropping fast. Internal temperature is freezing. Most of their power grid is dead." Admiral Kim felt his heart sink as he studied the tactical display. This was worse than their worst-case scenarios. The Calorian ship was caught in the radiation belt around Nephro 7, where the deadly energy would fry any rescue shuttle that got too close. Their docking ports were smashed beyond use. Even worse, the ship was spinning so fast that matching its rotation would be nearly impossible. "Sir," Li Tae said quietly, "I'm detecting massive hull breaches on at least 6 decks. Sections of the ship are completely exposed to space." "How long do they have?" Kim asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Maybe 4 hours before total system failure. Probably less." Kim stared at the dying ship, doing calculations in his head. Every solution seemed impossible. Their shuttles weren't designed for this kind of extreme rescue operation. The radiation would cook their pilots. The spinning motion would make docking a nightmare, but giving up wasn't an option. "Open a channel to the Calorian ship," Kim ordered. Static filled the bridge before a weak voice came through, speaking broken standard, with a heavy alien accent. "Unknown vessel. Please identify." "Calorian vessel. This is Admiral Won Kim, of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. We're here to get you out." Silence stretched for long seconds. Then the voice returned, filled with disbelief and hope. "Earth humans, but no one answered our call. For weeks, no one came." "We're answering now," Kim said firmly. "Prepare your people for evacuation. We're coming to get you." The rescue operation began like a nightmare. Pilot Chojan gripped the controls of his shuttle as he flew straight into the radiation belt surrounding Nephro 7. Warning alarms screamed in his cockpit while deadly energy waves tried to fry his ship's electronics. "First group coming aboard," Chojan radioed back to the Compassion. His shuttle was packed with 23 Calorian civilians, including several younglings who clung to their parents in terror. Behind him, pilot Yunhai followed in a second shuttle, dodging chunks of debris that spun through space like deadly bullets. A piece of metal the size of a car missed her cockpit by inches. For 12 grueling hours, the human pilots made trip after impossible trip. Each time, they had to match the rotation of the dying Calorian ship, dock with damaged ports, and load as many people as they could carry. The shuttles creaked and groaned under the weight of extra passengers, far beyond their safety limits. "Shuttle Bay 2 is gone," shouted Captain Yoon-sik from the Seoul. A massive piece of debris had torn through the frigate's docking bay, destroying it completely. "We can't take any more shuttles." "Then we make new docking bays," replied Engineer Park So. Working frantically, his team ripped out walls in the cargo holds and installed temporary life support systems. They used spare parts, emergency patches, and anything else they could find to create safe spaces for the rescued Calorians. The alien physiology created another problem. Calorians breathed different air and needed different atmospheric pressure than humans. Medic Ji-won had never treated alien patients before, but she learned fast, using improvised techniques to help the injured survivors. "These people are suffering from severe radiation poisoning," she reported to Admiral Kim. "I'm treating them with our medical supplies, but I'm making up half the procedures as I go." The human crew worked without rest, pushing themselves beyond exhaustion. When one shuttle pilot collapsed from radiation exposure, another volunteer immediately took his place. "Final shuttle run." Cho Chun's voice crackled over the radio, so tired he could barely speak. "That's all of them, Admiral. All 847 souls are aboard our ships." Captain Veltor was among the last to be evacuated. When he met Admiral Kim on the docking bay, the Calorian captain gripped Kim's hand with all 4 of his arms, tears streaming down his scaled face. "Why?" Veltar asked, his voice breaking. "Why did you risk everything for us? We are nothing to your people. We have nothing to offer you." Kim looked at the alien captain with quiet determination. "You called for help. That's enough." Within hours of the rescue, news reports flooded every corner of the galaxy. Emergency broadcasts interrupted regular programming on 1,000 different worlds. The impossible had happened. The humans had actually done it, in the Crystal Towers of the Vrexian Empire. Admiral Kethros sat frozen at his desk, staring at the holographic newsfeed in complete disbelief. The reporter's voice echoed through his chambers. "All 847 Calorian civilians have been successfully rescued by the Earth Defense Force." "Impossible," Kethros muttered, his reptilian eyes wide with shock. "Run that report again." His assistant replayed the footage, showing human shuttles docking with their ships, Calorian families walking safely aboard human vessels, children hugging their rescuers. Every single person had survived. "They saved all of them?" Kethros asked weakly. "Every single one." "Yes, sir. 0 casualties. The humans even treated the injured and provided medical care during the journey home." The Thalorian Federation's massive AI brain went into overdrive, recalculating its original assessment over and over again. 17 times it ran the numbers, and 17 times the math said the mission should have failed. The probability of success had been only 23%. Yet somehow, these primitive humans had achieved a perfect rescue. "Error in calculations detected," the AI announced to the confused Federation Council. "Human behavior does not match logical parameters." The Zephyrin Collective called emergency sessions across their homeworld. Thousands of minds connected as one, trying to understand how humans had succeeded where their advanced calculations said failure was certain. "They risked their entire defense fleet," one mind observed. "For strangers they'd never met," added another, "with no hope of payment or reward," concluded a third. But it wasn't just the success that sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. It was the reason behind it. News interviews with human crew members revealed the truth that left alien leaders speechless. "Why did you risk everything for the Calorians?" reporters asked. The humans always gave the same simple answer: because they needed help. no political calculations, no economic benefits, no strategic advantages. Just pure, stubborn compassion that made no logical sense to species who had built their civilizations on cold mathematics and profit margins. On a dozen worlds, government officials sat in stunned silence. Some felt deep shame for their own inaction. Others felt confusion at this alien concept of helping strangers without reward. All of them realized that something fundamental had shifted in the galaxy. These young humans had shown them what they had forgotten, that sometimes helping others was reason enough. 6 months after the Calorian rescue, the Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds had gathered for an unprecedented event, the establishment of what they were calling the Terran Doctrine. The Vexian representative stood at the podium, his voice heavy with reluctant respect. After careful consideration of recent events, this council hereby establishes new protocols for interstellar emergencies. Any distress call received by member species must be answered, if technically possible, regardless of political or economic factors. In the audience, Captain Veltar sat with his surviving crew members, still amazed at how much their galaxy had changed. Since the human rescue, everything was different. The Altarian Republic had sent ships to help a stranded mining colony. The Drakmor warrior clans had actually rescued their former enemies from a collapsing space station. Even the Cold Synthetic Alliance had begun responding to emergency calls. It was as if the humans had awakened, something that had been sleeping in the galactic community's heart. Admiral Wan Kim walked to the center of the Great Hall, feeling uncomfortable in his dress uniform. The council was trying to give him their highest honor, the Star of Galactic Service, but he wished he could be anywhere else. Admiral Kim, the council speaker, announced, "Your actions have fundamentally changed how our civilizations view their responsibilities to others. Please accept this recognition of your extraordinary service." Kim took the gleaming medal, but shook his head slightly. "With respect, honored speaker, we didn't save the Calorians for recognition or awards. We saved them because they needed saving. Because in a universe this vast and dangerous, the only thing that separates civilized beings from the empty void is our willingness to help each other." The hall fell silent. These words, so simple yet so profound, struck at the heart of what it meant to be part of a galactic community. Captain Veltar translated quietly for his people, though some ideas needed no translation. Compassion, courage, and the revolutionary concept that every life had value. These were the gifts humanity had brought to the stars. Not bigger guns or faster ships, not advanced technology or economic power. Just the simple, stubborn belief that when someone calls for help, decent people answer that call. As the ceremony ended and representatives returned to their worlds, they carried with them a new understanding. The humans had shown them that true strength wasn't measured in credits or firepower, but in the courage to do what's right, even when it costs everything. The galaxy would never be the same.